Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:46. Roll call. Everyone is here. Attest to publication.
I saw it posted.
Thank you, Joni. Approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We did want to move that one item to after closed session. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to move item 10C until after the open session. So move it to closed session after open session.
So, Lori, you're making a motion?
I'll second.
Motion by Lori, seconded by Joni to move section section 10C we'll vote on that after closed session.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So with that being said, approval of the agenda. We're good, Shelley, Lori, right? And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Lori, would you read the
Sure.
mission?
Yep. Bangor School District mission, vision, and value statement. Mission, Bangor Pride, a small school building big futures. Vision, an innovative small school creating excellence through personalized learning and relationships for all. Values, student-centered, small class sizes, continuous improvement, professionalism, opportunities for all, safety, foster community, and sustainability. The Board of Education collective commitments. As a member of the Bangor School Board, I will be an active listener who is open-minded, respectful, and inquisitive. Together with one collective voice, we are committed to forward thinking while strategically prioritizing for our students, staff, and community now and into the future.
Thank you, Lori. Public comment? Okay, we'll start off with reorganization, election of school board officers for the 2022-2023 school year. I open nominations for president.
I nominate Julie Myers.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Ballot's been cast for Julie Myers to be president. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carried. Open nominations for vice president.
I'll make a motion for Lori Horseman as vice president.
And I'll second. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Nomination has been cast for Lori Horseman to be vice president. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. I'm asked for open nominations for clerk.
I'll make a motion to elect, oh my gosh, Shelley Piskey. Hello.
I'll second that. Are there any other nominations for clerk? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Shelley Piskey has been nominated for clerk. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Open nominations for treasurer.
I'll make a motion for Joni Wilcox for treasurer.
I'll second that. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Joni Wilcox has been nominated for treasurer. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Election of school board officers is complete. Approval of minutes from the April 20th regular meeting.
I move to approve. Second.
Motion by Joni, seconded by Tina to approve the April 20 regular meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. April 20th closed session.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion made by Tina, seconded by Joni to approve April 20th closed session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Students, come on down. Can get the mic from John.
Hi. The elementary word of the month was motivation. The PTO carnival took place and was very well attended. Softball won conference with the record of 14-0. They took the 1 seed in the playoffs and will play Tuesday. With a win tomorrow night, the baseball team can win a share of the conference. The track teams had the conference meet last night, and the guys played fourth and the girls play second. Regionals are next Monday at Kickapoo.
There was a banquet for FFA members, and the FFA also had a flower sale. The Fine Arts banquet was last Wednesday, which announced Students of the Year, recognized ACADEC, inducted new NHS members, among other things. Middle and high school had their spring band and choir concert, and high schools is next week. Physics is going to Valley Fair on the 25th. There was a blood drive on May 12th with a good turnout. Seniors have already had a busy May, and it will stay that way. The honors banquet was also last Wednesday, honoring the top 5% of the class. Scholarship night was 2 weeks ago, which was well attended by the seniors. The Extra Effort Award was given to Dominic Keeble, and he attended the Extra Effort banquet. The next couple of weeks, there's a senior banquet on Sunday, graduation practice on the 20th, graduation on the 29th. Finals are next Wednesday and Thursday, the 25th and 26th, and the seniors have 7 days left.
I was wondering if you were going to include the countdown.
Not that you're counting it all, right?
Thank you very much for your time and congratulations and best wishes.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you again to the seniors that have done a great job this year. And I know there were 2 that could not be here tonight as well. But you guys have been awesome. We appreciate you coming. That'll be our last student report for the school year. And in September, we'll get started with a new group. So thank you, ladies, and best of luck in your
Thank
future
you.
endeavors.
Next, faculty study update. Kevin? Kevin from Nexus is here tonight.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me back this evening. I'm here tonight just to give a status update, as it says, on really where the district is at in the facility study and assessment process. And I know last time you were kind of straining your necks to listen to me and look at the screen. I've got some slides for you tonight, so you will not offend me one bit if you want to turn around and go ahead and look at those slides. So if we can jump to the next slide. So just briefly, I wanted to review for you. From the beginning, we've had shared goals between the district and Nexus Solutions. The first one being just to produce for the district a comprehensive facility master plan. And that's a big part of why I'm here tonight, is to hand over the, really at this point, the result of that assessment, which is really the first step to produce the plan. Focusing on deferred maintenance and educational upgrade needs. We'll talk about that over the next few minutes, and that's a big part of the document you're getting this evening. Throughout the process, we've certainly gathered input from stakeholders, whether that be staff or you as board members, and certainly administration. We'll talk a little bit more about the staff community as we talk this evening. A big part of this has got to be helping you go through and define priorities, potential phasing, budgets, and the use of funding tools, and then finally utilizing the data to make informed decisions. Jump to the next one. Thank you. Similar, there's some important objectives that we continue to remind ourselves of every time we get together. Part of the process is really looking at improving safety and security. You guys do a fine job of that here, but there's always room to improve and look at that. Maintaining and extending the life of facilities. We certainly are big believers, and we know you are as well, of taking what you've got and certainly improving upon your current facilities, making sure there are equitable learning environments for all students in all of your buildings, doing your best to move from a reactionary maintenance to a comprehensive plan. Whenever I say the word reactionary, I don't want to leave the impression that you haven't been doing a great job here in terms of maintaining facilities. You really have. But it's about putting a plan together to address it in the short and long term. Doing whatever you can to reduce utility and operating costs and bringing those costs down. Certainly minimizing the local tax impact whenever possible. All right, next slide. So as we've gone through the process, there's been some interesting data points that we've talked about. I mentioned a few minutes ago that we have gotten a lot of interaction accomplished with the staff. One of the big things early on was doing a comprehensive survey of your staff, and we had well over 80% of your staff voluntarily participate in that particular survey. So this is I go from left to right, just some really interesting information that came out of it. In the gray there, those vertical bars represent the elementary results. So staff at the elementary, and the red is the middle and high school. And essentially it represents their level of satisfaction. So when we say there on the far left, when we talk about winter, what we did was we asked them questions around their level of comfort relative to heating. When we look at the spring and fall, then the next column, that would be around cooling. And then IAQ is indoor air quality. So what you see there is I put a line across the top at the 80% level. That's ASHRAE. That's our national standard. And generally, they find that hitting 80% is an acceptable national standard. You want to do that across the board for all of your staff. You see Nexus, we've got us at 90% there. We put that there because our expectation is, certainly when we're building a new building, but whenever we're retro commissioning or upgrading your equipment, that we're shooting for 90% of your staff to say that they're satisfied with the performance, whether it be winter, spring, fall, or relative to indoor air quality. We also got great feedback on things like lighting, daylighting, building security, where you can see you rate very high there in terms of staff. Furniture, functional spaces, obviously that comes off the page as being fairly low, but I'd say that your district is no different than many districts in terms of rating on functional spaces. There's always, I think in terms of the eyes of the staff, a lot of potential upside there. And then site and traffic safety, you guys rate fairly high as well there. All right, next slide. We also looked at another pretty interesting data point where I think it's a great story to tell here in the district and in terms of sharing information with your community. So this slide, going from left to right, really looks at utility costs. And the first vertical bar there you can see is the average in Wisconsin. That's on a square foot basis of what districts spend on utilities. And if you see the middle bar there, that's where you're currently at. You're about at 20% below in terms of what the typical district spends on a square foot basis for utilities. So that's outstanding by itself, right? If you did nothing and you just were status quo, you guys are doing a great job. However, as part of our assessment, looking at potential electrical upgrades, controls upgrades, HVAC upgrades, and retro commissioning of your equipment, we're believers that there's probably about another 19% in additional savings that you could realize over time in your current buildings. So great news as of today, even potentially better news in the future here in Bangor. And then there's a lot on this slide, so I'm not gonna sit and expect you to digest it all. And we'll continue to talk about this as we go forward. I know some of you have seen this already. For those of you who've seen it already, and for some reason on the PDF it didn't quite come out, especially on those years you see kind of in the middle there. But what I added since the last time was, I think it might have been Shelley asked the question about Cashton, for instance. So I just looked back and I started adding the years in above there. For instance, they had a failed operational, and that should say 2013, so that 3 flowed over for some reason. They had passed the facilities for 12.3 million referendum in 2013. So that's what those numbers indicate. But basically, the message here on this slide is Bangor falls right in the middle in terms of your investment on a per student basis when you look at how you're levying here locally. And you can see from left, right, Cashin on the far left there and Necedah on the far right. And then I did circle for you just the relevant most recent ones. Happened in 2022 there. Sparta had a failure. West Salem was successful. New Lisbon was successful, and Necedah was both successful and had a failure. So we'll continue to refine this information, but this is a big part of the process too, is just looking at your neighbors, making sure you have the facts and understanding where it is you stand. All right. Another important thing that I think you've heard us talk about as a group as we've gone through this process is we recognize that whenever you assess your facilities, a big part of that is you've often had, whether it be deferred maintenance or potentially educational upgrades, you're recognizing that you can't necessarily tackle all those things within your annual budgets. So we really need to look at a wide range of potential financial strategies to help minimize impact to the taxpayers, some of which you guys have done a great job of already doing. So first one, we self-funding as much as possible through existing capital, ESSER funds, or dedicated fund balance opportunities, restructuring of existing debt, defeasance or prepayment. I think you've got something later on the agenda tonight relative to that. Utilizing your existing levy authorities. So Fund 3846, 50, 80 are all options there that we've talked about and we'll look at. And then the last two are more so relative to tools. So integrating facility planning and funding. So utilizing the tools we make available to you in the process to have instant data for decision making. And we've talked about our project selection tool and our cash flow tool. And that's part of the report that you'll get this evening as well. And then just what we did a minute ago, looking and comparing your neighboring districts. So you're understanding the facts and able to share that story with the folks in your community. All right, so with the report that I'll leave hard copies for all of you tonight before I go, and then the district's also got a electronic copy as well. It's I think it's about 180 pages is what it ended up being, so it's very detailed. But these are the main categories of identified facility and site needs. So under deferred maintenance, we've got ADA accessibility, interior finishes and food service, site and civil, your building envelope, electrical and life safety, and the mechanical and plumbing. So those are the main areas that have all the detail for deferred maintenance. And then when we look at potential educational upgrades, there's security, accessibility, and capacity, which we've talked about, special education, technical and STEM education, equitable modern learning environments, administrative and support spaces, and then the potential for district-wide initiatives around things like the arts and athletics as well. So those are themes you'll see within the report just to categorize the information. As you're looking at the report, and I always say it's good bedtime reading if you have trouble falling asleep, but it's actually pretty interesting stuff in there. I always like to look at it in terms of, especially as a board member, there's always going to be potential benefits in terms of where you guys are today as a community and as a district, and then potential challenges. So on the left there, I think I would say as someone that has spent now 3 or 4 months really learning a lot about you here in the district, you've really positioned yourself well in terms of potential benefits. You've generated goodwill. I think one of the examples of that is you've recently passed an operational referendum, so the community has told you they feel good about where the district's at and they want to support you. You've got a demonstrated history of fiscal responsibility. You've built a healthy fund balance. You're managing your debt pay down effectively, and you're in a position where, although we are at certainly a growing rate risk on interest rates, we still are in a historically low interest rate environment right now. And then a challenge is I think you can characterize a lot of those in terms of timing. So we know that you've got a limited window on usage of those ESSER funds. You've got a little bit of wait ahead of you yet to access those Fund $46 that you set aside. In terms of an election cycle coming up, we've got this coming fall of 2022. We got spring of 23, and we have no fall election next year. So basically that's just something to keep in mind in terms of when elections fall. 5 to 7% annual construction inflation. That's certainly an issue, I think, in everybody's mind right now, whether you're in residential or commercial construction. And then, as I mentioned before, you've had your community support you on the operational side, but that also means in April 2024, as a board in a district, you're likely to be looking at a potential renewal of that. So you've got that not too far in the distance as well, although 2024 sounds like it's far off. So things just to consider there. And then as you're thinking about as we get input in the next number of weeks from the additional staff input and community as we meet with them, you're going to start thinking about how might we begin to potentially prioritize the needs that have been identified here within the assessment and the report. So some things to just keep in mind. I think number one, this certainly is a work in progress, and it really always will be. The report you see today is really a snapshot in time for the district, and it's going to continually serve as a tool that can be updated. Although it is obviously based on important input from folks like your staff. Any of the numbers you see in terms of budgets in there, they're based on a number of things. One, real-time data. So we're essentially, by that I mean we're bidding projects every single week, so that affects how we put our budgets together for you in terms of the budgets you see in there. Budgets that we do put in there, we want to give you all-in budgets, meaning we want to include everything. So we never want to come back to you and say, oh, that was only a partial budget. No, we want to give you the full budget, so the full picture. So it includes things like fees, inflation projections are built into that, contingency, things like that. However, always remind yourself those aren't bid numbers. Everything ultimately will get 100% competitively bid in the marketplace. So that's ultimately what our budgets are attempting to shoot for, what the marketplace is going to determine. We talked about our cash flow tool that can provide really a way to check in and check out those priorities, but it gives you an instant financial impact in terms of what that means to the district and ultimately your taxpayers. Lots of ability within these tools to look at options for things like phasing and prioritizing and how that impacts things financially. Big next step as we're talking here, though, is going to be that staff and community engagement. That'll be, I think, some important information to bring back to you on how those folks, which are two very different groups, obviously, although there's some overlap in between them, feel about the priorities that have been identified over the last number of months. And then I think an important point that I wanted to make before I wrap up tonight was one of the roles that is important for us to play for you, play in this role for you, is to help you ultimately come to a consensus. I've worked with a lot of boards in my career, and it's pretty rare that a board ever comes to 100% perfect agreement on everything. It just doesn't happen that way. So I think an objective certainly is to come to a consensus where it's not a perfect plan, it's not a perfect set of priorities, but it's the best consensus that you as leaders in your community and you as board members ultimately are comfortable with. All right, I think one more slide. All right. Boy, that pink showed up really nice there, didn't it? So some of you, I think, recently have seen this, and really it looks back a little bit in terms of what we've accomplished over the last 3 weeks here in terms of some really, good meetings, rolling up all of our sleeves and really looking at this information and digesting it. Tonight, May 18th, we've got our board meeting here right now, which is really ultimately about delivering you the report and having me give you this update. Then I think we got a pretty critical few weeks ahead of us here. We've got a staff engagement session coming up next week which is really a chance to update the staff on how far this process has come, and give them a chance to give us some input on any gaps they might see, anything more that they feel could be included in terms of priorities. And then coming up on June 6th is the community engagement side, where we're going to get folks into focus groups and ask them some important questions that's going to help us come back to you and give you feedback on the priorities, on things like tax tolerance and other important things that are going to help you guys zero in a little bit more on the prioritization of the projects that are really identified in here. So, and then ultimately heading into later in June on the 22nd, right now on the calendar, you've got that board meeting where we can come back, report on the community engagement findings and staff engagement as well. It's a really good opportunity then, I think, for you as a board to have more discussion on potential projects, how that relates to financial side of the scope as well, and then potentially begin to give some direction to the administration on where things may go. And obviously, as we talked about earlier, if you're looking at prioritizing some significant projects, which are included in this plan, they're going to fall probably beyond your existing levying authority. So referendum may be something that you're going to talk about as a tool, and that's certainly something that we can help you look at as well in terms of the proper way to approach that. So, any questions? I know I went through it fairly quickly, but I know you got a lot on your agenda tonight. So, just wanted to make sure, number one, I got here to give you that deliverable, which has got a ton of detail in it, and then just give you an update on where we're at with things. And I suppose I should have said this at the beginning, but we wouldn't be here tonight and been able to accomplish all this if it wasn't for the hard work of your staff, your administration, a lot of the folks sitting around here, and you, the board. So thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. Any questions?
I would just throw two things in as we went through that. Was on a session today. John Bales let us know that ESSER $3 that are tabbed for air quality or facilities is now being extended till April 2024. So that's a positive if we were to use some of those ESSER dollars towards some projects for us. And then I think the other piece, as we look at, that potential in June of starting to look at drafting a resolution, Brian from Baird will be here at our June meeting and giving us a really good picture of where we are, what some different impacts would be. So just so you're aware, coupled with all of the other feedback, you're going to hear directly from Baird on some of the financial pieces as well. So, yeah, just lots of good information coming our way.
Right.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to board president's report. We have some correspondence, and they are page 26 and 27 in your packet. One from Sunshine Travel regarding our Music New Orleans, and the second one from Mrs. Michelle Harper regarding the Poinette trip. So you can go ahead and take a look at those. Committee reports, building and grounds.
I think you just got a pretty good feeling of what the Building and Grounds Committee has been working on with Kevin. And just a huge thank you to that committee. They spent, I think we were over 4 hours that first night, and really dug in, asked some great questions, and then came back for another 3.5 with the whole board for the study session with a lot of the same information. But I think just every time you see it, some of that stuff you see, you just gain a little bit more perspective on it. So thank you to all of the B&G committees. We will have, I'll get a count later tonight for those of you who do plan on attending the staff session and the community session. And depending on if we have 4 or more, then I will make sure that those are posted appropriately. So I'll get a count for you before you leave tonight, or if you know that you're going to be attending one or both of those, please let me know. So thanks.
Tina, Shelley, and Lori, thank you for all of your time. All right, district financials.
We had one question that I'll share with the group. There was a question about some of the restaurant expenses in the end of April, and those were for our boys basketball team as they were down at the state tournament. So they had a couple of meals that went across the credit card. Historically, that has been what the teams have done when they've gone to the tournament. We do have that tournament fund that pays for that, and that is money raised from hosting tournaments. So that's that goes right back to our teams when they make it down to Madison or to Green Bay, and we'll make sure we build that account back up in case we need to go to Green Bay in the future, and those types of things as well. So thank you.
Any other questions about financial documents?
There's no other questions. I'll move to approve the financials as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to approve the financial reports. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, district reports, child care engagement session.
I'll kind of kick us off there, and I'll let Mr. Johnson share a little bit about that. I want to share briefly, too, just in our agendas in general. I took the administrator reports off, and I put some of the things into the district reports, because with the student reports, they've gotten shorter. There's a couple things even yet today we're like, oh, I would add that to mine, but we didn't have that. So we may go back to an administrative report for just some of those other things that we want to report to you guys. But moving forward, just wanted you to be aware of that, just trying to make us more efficient here. So for the child care engagement session, we got about a dozen parents and one, the child, what's the center? Sorry. The parent group.
Parenting place.
The
came, and
parenting
then
place.
And one other child care provider.
Yep, one representative from the parenting place in La Crosse that came. Curious on what we were working on. It was very clear very quickly. We had left this very open-ended for what our child care needs in our community from birth to 18. And it became very clear very quickly that the number one concern of those 12 parents in the room was our after-school program from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock p.m. And being able to provide something in there. So I'll let Mike talk a little bit, and then we'll talk about kind of the next steps that he and I are planning. So you can share a little bit of the feedback.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. The little ones, most everybody had a 4K student or a kindergarten student, that kind of thing. We talked at length about the scenario that the YMCA, it just wasn't financially feasible as numbers dwindled. And actually, we got feedback from the parents of why the numbers were dwindling. It was kind of some of the things that they were seeing and at the Y or with the Y care that they just started to pull and figure out other options. And I'll be honest, just the feedback is that there is a need. It's just not a real large need. And I think that the same thing that the Y did experience would be the similar thing that we would experience. You'd always be hovering around that manageable number to make it, let's say, affordable or not type of thing. And they got, parents got that. They are obviously the need is in their world, but again, we're a small community. We don't have a massive number of people that need this, which makes it really difficult because you want to provide them with options. So we're looking at a couple different places to look, whether it's we did do a safe at home training here at school. I had about 21 of my students at the elementary. That went really well. We had a babysitting class that was offered, and I think we're going to expand those types of options. We talked about even a job share or not job share. Kind of like a credit at the high school level, workforce development or whatever, or school to work, sorry, it's drawing a blank, where, if we develop something in our school district that, students could participate in that if they have an interest in getting credit and possibly getting paid to work with our students after school care. But, there's lots of options. Those are all going to be really big challenges to get taken off by the fall. But again, looking at, we're going to do a survey here, and I believe in the next probably week here, we'll get out and just see really what kind of numbers we have, and we can share that with you in June, and really decide if that's what the district role is in providing that care.
And I guess I build on that. I think there's a couple questions that we want to ask all families and give them the opportunity to answer, or to answer and kind of see what the need is even more. So we've looked at some numbers of, if we were to try to sustain our own program and not invest, much district money, just be able to have it sustained by the fee that parents were paying, we would look at probably, it would probably need to be about $10 per child per day for that 3 hours. And then we could hire some staff and have them on our payroll, but have them there after school. We would need a long-term commitment. One of the things that the YMCA saw is it started with good numbers and then it dwindled, and then we've got staff that we've promised a job that we no longer have work for them. So we're going to throw out some of those numbers and say, would you be willing to commit? Would you be willing to write us a check for the first, semester on August 1st, to guarantee your spot in something like this? So I think that's one question, and see if we have the numbers. As we talk about it, we really would need to be at about 20 students would be our kind of the bottom for us to be able to do something that would be sustainable. So looking at those options, we've also discussed, and I think Mike's PTO had a lengthy discussion on it after our child care discussion, was what's the legality of us supporting families by helping connect them to a middle school or high school that may live in their community or live in their general neighborhood, so that maybe they could ride the bus home with that student and then get off the bus and stay with that child for a couple years. How can we get involved with that in a way that doesn't put us in a bad place as a district? So we may float that idea out there, how many parents might be willing to share that information about who might be able to babysit and those types of things. It seems like a great thing to be able to do, but I worry about some of the legal logistics of that. So we're going to explore it, because I think it is a feasible option for a lot of families, just to help connect them to somebody that may be willing to provide care at home. Again, there will be some ESSER dollars, some not ESSER to school, but some grant money available for childcare that we'll absolutely be looking at filling out an application for this summer. That would not be awarded till like December, with the intentions of being able to start something mid-year. But that's the update I got today on that. The Parenting Place, she had took my information. I have hers. We'll stay in contact. There's going to be some additional programming and meetings that they'll have in La Crosse County, and will invite me to those meetings. And I'll continue to look for other opportunities that we could do something. Again, as Mike said, there's definitely a need. It's not a huge need, and it's not something at this moment in time that we're advocating that we invest a lot of district funds into. But if we can help support those families to fill that need, that's what we're going to continue to push on. We'll give you another update on where we are on that in June. So, any questions for Mike or myself on that?
Thank you. Summer school update, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, just numbers coming in. Over 200 kids signed up, probably in that 225, 235 range. Still a couple kids trickling in, which will be cut off here pretty quick. But staffing's all good, and schedules. I think Terry and I tomorrow night will have 4K8 rostered and ready to go. So that's the timeline. We'll be ready to go on the 20th of June and run through July 8th, and that allows everybody to get to the fair the next week, I guess. So looking forward to that.
Awesome. And that number that your rough number is up a little bit from where we were last year, which is
176 last year.
Which is a good thing for those.
176.
So that's outstanding. All right. Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Johnson about summer school? Thank you. Mr. Chaplin, would you like to talk about the Cardinal Hall of Distinction?
Sure. Thanks, Julie. So we're trying to return to things pre-pandemic. The last couple years, we've canceled it just because of COVID procedures. So we're hoping to return to having a Cardinal Hall of Distinction class. There will be a pork chop fundraiser for the plaques on Saturday, May 28th. So hopefully we raise some funds to be able to support that. And then nominations for the class of 2022 have a deadline of July 31st. And nominations are, I believe, available on the website. Otherwise, they will be in the district office. So we have the committee members listed there, and hopefully we can plan that in conjunction with homecoming, as to be determined yet, but obviously sometime in the fall.
Thank you. Testing updates.
Yep, the ACT administration preliminary results did come in. The students did receive their individual reports, and we got a preliminary report for school, but those are still embargoed, so stay tuned for those. And then we are done with almost all the state testing except for the early literacy screener that's still in progress with some of the elementary teachers and staff.
Any questions for Mr. Chaplin? Thank you. Open enrollment window update.
Yeah, just kind of giving you that heads up. April 30th was that end date for the regular open enrollment window. We did see a stark increase in open enrollments right at the end of that, and with some changes in a neighboring district, that some of that may have been emotional, some of it may be real. So those are just applications. That doesn't mean those are students in our buildings yet, but 55 open enrollment applications in, 23 open enrollment applications out, based on what we see right there for next year as far as changes. So we'll keep you posted on how many come. They all did. All of the ins did get kind of a personalized letter from the district inviting them in for a visit and a tour, and to get their registration paperwork and all that type of stuff. So that'll help us solidify a little bit those numbers as we go.
Any questions? Okay. Mr. Brockup, you can keep on talking.
All right. On to the action items. The first item up there is the contract teachers pay increase for 2022-23. As this is, we've talked about this as a board, and I've talked about this with staff. So we've used the base calculation, which is calculation that the district has used for multiple years. Base calculation is taking the base in each kind of one of the brackets of our pay schedule, taking all the number of people in that, getting that total number, taking that by the 4.7 CPI. Gives us a total of about $118,000 that we work with for raises. So that 4.7% increase for our teachers is not a 4.7 per scale, and that's not something that's been done, or per person. It's not something that's been done that way in the past. It's that 4.7% of that group. We feel the administrative recommendation is that we evenly distribute that amount over the 56 teachers, resulting in $2,137 raise for every teacher next year. That $2,137 raise goes on each one of the basically the boxes, the cells in our pay schedule, and staff will not actually take a step with that. So each cell is just growing by that $2,137. So that kind of just explains what it is. So again, what it's not is it's not a 4.7 for every person based on their salary. But what we do believe it is a strategic step forward for our district to enhance our entire pay scale and make sure that scale remains very competitive within our conference and in the area. So that's my recommendation. Looking for a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion to approve the $2,137 pay increase for all 22-23 teaching contracts.
I'll second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Joni, to approve $2,137 pay increase for 2022-2023 teaching contracts for all teaching contracts. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The hourly employee pay increase, that's the next item up there. Just an important reminder, our district in January made a significant investment into our hourly employees. I'm not going to say that we are 100% of where we'd like to be as a district, but we did take some really, really good steps as a district to be competitive with the market in January. With that larger scale there, we are not using a 4.7% increase as a marker for this group. So we are using just a 50-cent per cell increase, and any employees that would be scheduled to move and have movement for years of service would also be allowed that with this. So 50 cents per cell on that scale for all of our hourly employees, which I'll miss somebody, but would include our custodians, our secretaries, our paraprofessionals, our bus drivers, and I feel like I'm missing one, but I think that, and our cooks. Yep, and our cooks. So if there's no questions on that, I'd ask for a motion to approve that increase for the 2022-2023 school year.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Tina, seconded by Lori, to approve 50 cents per cell increase to the hourly compensation scale. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, the next item, skipping C for after closed session, the supplemental pay increases. The supplemental pay increases, what we did was we tried to look at a number of the different things in the district that staff receives extra amounts and put them all in one schedule so we could address them all at once versus kind of one item at a time over time. Hourly event workers, so people working primarily our athletic events, taking tickets and crowd control, those types of things. That rate has not been adjusted in a long time, going from $10 to $12.50. Hourly curriculum work, this would be primarily summer curriculum hours that are pre-approved for a certain amount of time that staff may work to improve their curriculum or work on specific tasks over the course of the summer. Again, this is a rate that has not changed in a long time, and we feel going from $18.25 to $25 an hour is a competitive a competitive increase, and definitely our staff is worth that in the time that they're putting in outside of their contract. The hourly teaching sub rate is used primarily at the middle school, high school, when a teacher is giving up part of their prep or all of their prep. This is the hourly rate from 20 to 30 in that cell. I will just reiterate again that usually that's in a 45-minute increment, so it's currently $15 an hour with the $30 per hour, or $15 for a 45-minute period. With the $30 per hour, it's $22.50 for a 45-minute period, which is the rates that would be applied to most staff most times. So that is there. The daily teacher sub rate is what we pay for our substitute teachers to come into the district. That is looking at numbers from around our conference and around our geographic area that we're competing for subs for, moving that from $115 to $125 per day. And the hourly IT support, we do have some students and some support that happens in our IT department, oftentimes helping set up for board meetings and having also helping to reset like all of the iPads and get those all ready for the next year, moving that from $10 an hour to $12 an hour. And we do have student dishwashers at the middle school, high school, and raising their rate from $10 an hour to $11 an hour. This is estimate because it's hourly, and obviously based on how many sub days we have and all those types of things, so it can be flexible. But we estimate this to be about a $15,000 increase to our total budget for next school year. And again, as the board has kind of seen how that plays in and where we feel like we can cover that. So looking for those adjustments to be made for the 2020 or 22-23 school year. Questions? Otherwise, we'd look for a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the supplemental pay increases for the district effective July 1st, 2022, as presented by Mr. Braca.
I'll second.
Motion by Joni, seconded by Lisa, to approve the supplemental pay increases for the district effective July 1st, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Josh for a couple of the special education agreements that we do each year.
So the first one would be a 660301 severe ID agreement with West Salem. We do have some students with severe intellectual disabilities, and being able to program their needs with West Salem has been a good partnership over the years. So I would ask the board to continue that agreement with West Salem.
Have they ever presented any spatial issues? I mean, are we ever concerned about whether or not they'll accept our students, or?
Not currently, but it could be in the future.
Sure. Okay.
That would probably be a little bit with the where our facility is not set up for changing tables and IV. That's some of our student needs that they have set up over there. We just don't have that capacity or ability. So we'd have to look at either finding another partnership or looking at changing some of our facility needs to be able to do that. The other difficulty with that is, we don't have a large population of that. So we may have, one student every 3, 4, 5 years that would apply to. And having that one student by themselves, whereas at West Salem, they're with not a large group of those students, but a group of students that are, they're not isolated.
It's been a great partnership, I would say.
And I would say, in general, it's been mutually beneficial. There have been years where, and I believe we're in one of those years this year, that I think we actually have more early childhood students than they do, but that ebbs and flows over time. So that helps maintain, with two districts flowing together, steady programming, steady staffing, steady facilities there. They're definitely going to let us know if something changes in that realm. But to my understanding, the average of years, it's been mutually beneficial for both districts.
And just so you know, so if we had a student want to open enroll with those needs from Sparta or Melman or Cashton or wherever, the open enrollment cap numbers would be determined by West Salem because that's our programming. So we wouldn't set any of those numbers.
I'll move to approve the renewal of the 66.0301 tuition agreement with the school district of West Salem.
And I believe it needs to be two separate ones, one for the severe ID.
It is the second item down, or the next item down. Yeah. Sorry.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley, to approve the renewal of the 66.0301 tuition agreement with the school district of West Salem for providing K-12 services for our severely intellectually disabled students. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Similarly, the early childhood special education agreement with West Salem, again, the district, all districts are responsible for students 3 years old to starting at 3 years old that may have a disability, and programming their early childhood special education needs with West Salem, as Mr. Brockup said, has been mutually beneficial for both districts because we have been able to maintain a full program versus, again, 1 or 2 students a year. West Salem has 1 or 2 students a year. Right now, it's actually West Salem had to hire a part-time teacher to increase the needs, but that's on a year-to-year basis. So again, I'd ask that we continue that early childhood special education agreement with West Salem. Otherwise, we would have to look to program somewhere else or have a sustainable thing here.
I'll make a motion to approve 66.0301 early childhood special education agreement with West Salem.
Second.
Joni.
Motion by Lori, seconded by Joni, to approve the renewal of the 66.0301 tuition agreement with the School District of West Salem for providing early childhood special education services for our early childhood students. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Josh, I did fix that recommended action in there. I had a typo, so I apologize. So for the IDS. The item G is our resolution for the defeasance of debt. This one definitely made me nervous as I see the amount of paperwork that goes with this, and the first time for me going through this. And when I met with Julie and Lori, they said, "Oh, we do this all the time. It's okay." So we did go through it multiple times. Again, once approved, if approved, there are some signatures that we'll need to get before you guys take off tonight. So this is working through Baird and looking at defeasance of debt. So this has been a strategic plan for the district over the last few years. By doing this, we are restructuring some of the debt from that March 15th, where it was refinanced at that point in time, March 15th or March 10th of 2015. This is debt from the additions added to elementary school 14 years ago. The defeasance plan that's attached here to this resolution has positioned the district to pay off a 20-year debt in just over 17 years. So I think this again goes to that good financial stewardship of the district and wise use of money. The defeasance is designed to save the district about $40,953 in interest over the term of this defeasance. So I did look back at this, and there have been defeasances before that, and each of those is separate. So this is just this defeasance. So that's some significant savings for the district. So the full resolution is there. I believe we need to make sure that we have a motion and a second with the full resolution. Any questions or anything before we do that? All right. So please make sure you read the full motion as it's written.
Just the top paragraph here? Is that what you mean?
Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the transfer of funds, the establishment of an escrow account with respect to and the defeasance of certain of the general obligations refunding bonds, date March 10th, 2015.
And I did copy and paste that. It's not my typo.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The Employee Assistance Program. We brought this to you September, October. I don't remember exactly when it was. This is something that we had talked about as an admin team, something that was presented to the district that allows anyone on our staff to have access to 8 therapy sessions. working through, all of the mental health concerns that have come along with the pandemic. It applies to our employees and their families. So each incident, they could have up to 8 visits per family member. It is very much something that we believe our staff should benefit from, can benefit from. I will be 100% honest, it has not gotten the use this year that we had hoped to see it get. We did look at it. It is a $245 per month. We would like to keep it in place. If it's not being used by partway through the year next year, then I would come to you at that point in time and say maybe we sunset it. But it is in a sense allowable through the ESSER funds, and that we can continue to fund. I think it's a great benefit for our staff. I'm disappointed it hasn't been used a little bit more. I'd like to have it a little bit longer to really promote it and make sure that we are supporting our staff through what has been some really difficult times in the past. So looking for a motion to continue that for the 2022-2023 school year, kind of with that promise from me that I will continue to update you on the use, and if it's not being used, we'll stop the program.
When will you revisit that, David?
I think halfway through the year would make would make a lot of sense.
So we're not approving for the entire year. We're approving for like the next 6 months to see where it's at, but there's no obligation. We can stop at any time.
No, I believe it's a monthly is what we've looked at. So yeah, I mean, I can come back to you, like December time and let you know what it is. I think we extend it for the full year, and then I would come back for action to stop it in December if it's not being used. I think that'd be the easiest thing to do.
I think if we can just keep our eye on it, if it's not being utilized, I think spending $245 every month for nothing is a waste of money.
It has been used. It hasn't been used to the extent that we had hoped that it would be.
Okay.
To this point.
If there are not other questions, I'll make a motion to approve with understanding that you'll monitor this and come back to us if it's not being utilized.
Yes.
I'll second.
Motion made by Tina, seconded by Lisa to approve the renewal of the Employee Assistance Program, ERC Employee Assistance Program for the 2022-2023 school year with monitoring. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right. Policy update. This is the last one. We made it. So this is the second reading. Again, this is a pretty simple one. The criminal history record check for employee self-reporting did not apply in the administrative section. So we updated it in the other sections, and added it as a new policy to the administrative. So this is just the second reading of that. We'd look for a motion to approve that.
I'll move to approve policy 1421, criminal history record check and an employee self-reporting requirement for admin.
I'll second.
Motion by Joni, seconded by Lisa to approve the second reading of policy 1421, criminal history record check and employee self-reporting requirements. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
So the next item is some furniture purchases. So this is, looking at end of the year budget dollars. This is something that the principals have been looking at when they had their end of the year dollars, and it's taken us a little bit to pull all of those estimates and everything together. Room 115 at the middle school, high school is the computer lab off the IMC, and that is actually in the Nexus plan for a renovation. We're going to take it off that Nexus plan this summer. We've already approved the carpet to be replaced in that room, so that's a good thing. We're going to remove the old computer lab type tables that are permanently attached. We're going to get that painted this summer. This is approval of tables and chairs, and these tables and chairs specifically are mat matching what we have been purchasing in the building with the same vendors as that we've been purchasing with. So we didn't look for multiple bids because we knew what we wanted. We did confirm pricing, and the pricing has changed very little from the last time we ordered furniture, so we felt that that was a pretty good place to be. At the elementary school, at the beginning of the school year, when we increased to 3 sections of second grade, we added new furniture in the new second grade classroom. Those teachers in second grade have been chatting about that, I think, for most of the year, and this is an effort to get that whole grade level the same. And this is something that Mike has chatted with his staff on. It's the direction that they want to go. There was a little bit of question when I had this. It's going to be less than $16,000, but I kind of put that not to exceed $16,000 because I was waiting for confirmation on the freight charges. So it's definitely going to be less than that, about $6,000 at the middle school, high school, and about $10,000 for the second grade classroom. Again, same table, same chairs, prices, all about the same. Actually, the desks went down at the elementary in their bids, so don't get to say that very often. So looking for a motion to approve those items out of year-end budget.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the furniture, not to exceed the $16,000.
I'll second that.
Motion by Lori, seconded by Shelley, to approve the purchase of tables and chairs to the middle high school, room 115, and 35 second grade desks and chairs for the second grade desks and chairs. Total of purchase not to exceed $16,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Middle high school handbook?
Thank you. I had a committee of teaching staff from the middle and high school. We went over the handbooks. There were some things that have come up over the last couple of years that they've asked for some input, mostly editorial changes in there, updating of years and names, added in social media sites under bullying and things like that. The two changes that we added were they wanted something, they're seeing a little bit more with plagiarism digitally. So that's been addressed more. And one of the things we talked about along with putting that in the handbook is specific spots where we're teaching exactly what that means. So we are going to hit that hard with our PBIS structure, and we have different grade levels in classes. I'll be talking about that. So it just kind of lays out, they wanted more of prescripted first offense will result in a student conference and a parent phone call. So we want to make sure that the student understands what they did was, was inappropriate. Not that we didn't do that before, but they just wanted it laid out, and then there would be a consequence with the second one. Students would still be able to turn in their own original work for full credit, however. So they wanted that in there. The other one is at the end of a grading period, teachers get slammed with a lot of late work, and it's difficult to get their grades in, especially at semester. In the high school when the classes change the next day or the following Monday, and also at the end of the year. So I consulted with colleagues in the conference as well, and a lot of them have anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks prior to the end of the grading period, late work is due. So I talked to staff, and they would like a 1 week prior. So anything in that last week, they can still turn in at any time during that time. Just so, when we get to June 3rd, there's not, some of them literally would get anywhere from 25 to 50 assignments turned in at that time. And it would obviously be shared with students ahead of time, and we would give them warnings, okay, there's a week left and 2 weeks and things like that. So those are really the only two major changes other than changing names of new staff and years and things like that.
Any questions for Mr. Mullenberg regarding the middle school, high school handbooks?
I'll make a motion to approve if there are no questions.
I'll second.
Motion made by Tina, seconded by Joni, to approve the middle school and high school student handbooks for 2022-2023 school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Brockup?
Yeah, getting to the personnel. Our first item there is a resignation of elementary special education teacher Tara Jamboy. She is, this was a tough decision for her. I've included her letter there for the board. Her family is just incredibly important to her and getting to spend that time with her family. So Tara has served in that capacity for the past few years, done an excellent job for our families and the district. We thank her for her service and wish her all the best in moving on. So looking for the motion to approve that resignation.
I'll move to approve the resignation of Tara Jambois.
A second.
Motion by Joni, seconded by Lisa, to approve the resignation of .775 special education teacher Tara Jamboy, effective at the end of the 2021-2022 school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
And I'll provide a real brief update on that. We do have that position posted. We've got some applicants. Mike is working on organizing those interviews in the very near future. That is a .775 position as it currently is stated. We have it posted for a .75 to full-time depending on need. As we look at those open enrollments, and that's why we're trying to get some of those there, we may have an increase there depending on our candidate, depending on how all of our other hiring goes. It would be great if we could hire that at a full-time position. So we're keeping those options open as we post and as we interview, and I will obviously keep the board apprised on where we stand on that moving forward. So that is posted and rolling. Next item there is a resignation for head boys basketball coach, Jacob Peterson. Jacob has served this team for a number of years, took the team this year to the state final game. Just an amazing run for our community. Just watch the emotion around him and his team this year. We really thank him for his contributions on and off the court, and his connections he's made with those athletes will be greatly missed. We thank him for those years of service and hope to see him return to those coaching ranks in the future. So again, the resignation of Jacob Peterson.
I'll move to approve the resignation of head boys basketball coach Jacob Peterson.
I'll second that.
Motion by Joni, seconded by Shelley, to approve the resignation of Jacob Peterson as head varsity boys basketball coach effective at the end of the 2021-2022 basketball season. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, the next item is the hire of our middle school, high school art teacher. This, you can see in the document attached, kind of her hiring summary. Amy comes to us very, very decorated as a 2018 Middle School Art Teacher of the Year, 11 years of experience in the field, proven collaborative leader in her district, was by far the unanimous choice of the district. I guess, Rick, anything else that you'd like to kind of to say there about that hire?
No, I listed it there. She was the unanimous choice by the committee. We did have some good candidates, which was really nice to see. But she did come out on top, and like David said, the 2018 Middle School Art Teacher of the Year, and her references, including the superintendent there, they don't want to see her go. And she wants to also open and enroll her son in the middle school here.
So looking for a motion to approve the hire of Amy Olson as our middle school and high school art teacher.
I'll make a motion to approve Amy Olson as the high school art teacher.
A second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Lisa, to approve the hire of Amy Olson as middle high school art teacher, beginning with the 2022-2023 school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, the next item, just as kind of a reminder, we had a school social worker come into our district through CISA. We had a contract with CISA for those services. It was 3 days a week that she was assigned to us. She was shared between two districts, ended up leaving CISA and going full-time to another school district. And when we looked at that position and knew the market for school social workers, we were very concerned about what we may be able to get to replace that position. So we opened this up and created our new position called the Bangor Family Connections Coordinator, and kind of created the position on the things that we need for the district to function and to fill that role that was being filled, and hopefully a few other roles as well. Included in that would be the district homeless liaison for the district. So we were able, when I brought that to you, it was, we're hoping to expand the field, and that proved to be very good. We had, I think we had a total of 5 applicants for that position, a couple of which did not come in until, I think one came in while we were interviewing, and then 2 after that. But we did interview 2 candidates, both very, very strong, both would have done well in this position. But again, the team really felt that the fit for Kelly Peterson to join our team, coming to us with 13 years of experience as a school psychologist. Her skill set, disposition, experience was just really the perfect fit for this position. So we are excited to welcome Kelly Peterson back to the Bangor Cardinal family, and just really looking forward to working with her in this new role.
I'll move to approve the hire of Kelly Peterson as .6 FTE Bangor Family Connections Coordinator and District Homeless Liaison, effective for the 2022-2023 school year.
I'll second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Lisa, to approve Kelly Peterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Just staying with, one of the things that we've tried to do, or I've tried to do this year, is any varsity coaches we put here, any of the assistants or middle school positions we usually put in the consent agenda. So we do have the hire of our varsity head volleyball coach. Rick, do you want to talk a little bit about this hire?
Sure. Not exactly what we thought we were going to get with an art teacher as well. We opened up the art position. But she also had applied on weekend for the volleyball position after the art position. And so I did a little checking on that, and Paul interviewed her, Paul Laxton did, and she has over 25 years of experience, including head coach at La Crosse Central and at Black River Falls, and assistant at the collegiate level as well. So I was happily surprised when that came in, and I never asked her about that until after the art interviews were obviously done and the committee had made their choice. And then I asked Paul to interview her, and we did interview, David and Paul interviewed another applicant as well as myself that withdrew because of some family commitments, and then another one that we're hoping that will be approved as an assistant tonight as well. So Amy brings a wealth of experience, and I think would be a great addition to our volleyball program.
I'll make a motion to approve Amy Olson as the varsity head volleyball coach.
I'll second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Lisa to approve, or excuse me, Lori, you? Yeah, motion by Lori, seconded by Joni to approve Amy Olson as varsity volleyball coach effective for the 2022-2023 school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right. Removal of items from the consent agenda. We have current openings, overnight field trip for Odyssey of the Mind, overnight field trip for the FFA State Convention, and hire of JV volleyball coach.
There's no removals. I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. I look for a motion to return to closed session.
So moved.
Motion by Shelley, seconded by Tina to return to closed session. I'll do a roll call vote, starting with Joni.
Aye.
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 We are now into closed session.
John, I do anticipate some
return to open session.
All right, I will bring with you the motion we were just discussing in closed session. So the administrative recommendation would be a motion for the administrative and confidential staff contract adjustments, 4.7% increase for confidential, 4.7% for admin. We would also, in the confidential contracts, begin the HRA premium-only contribution laid out in Section 8 of the Employee Handbook, beginning with the 2022-2023 school year, and the contract adjustments in the negotiation year as discussed for Administrator Josh Chaplin.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Lori. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I ask for adjournment.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Lisa to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Make sure, I know that you two need to do some signing quick.